Okay, so I'm going to guide you through some of the concepts centered around significant figures, also known as sig figs, and hopefully you'll be able to follow me. I'm going to use the laser pointer. So the first problem may ask you, and I'm going to give you some rules here in just a second as well, to write 1444 with three significant figures, and you'll notice that um, the three non-zero digits to the left of the zero should be counted as significant figures. Now you'll see later on if we put a decimal in there, it's going to make this a little bit different. So stand by. Also, when we use significant figures combined with scientific notation, what's important is that you understand the format of how significant figures or more scientific notation is set up. So for scientific notation, this this leading part here, which is called the mantissa, should always be between 1 and 10, 1 inclusive. So between 1 and 10, so less than 10. So up to 9.99 this should be. So you shouldn't have anything like 27.9. That'll make this wrong. And then remember what we were asked to do is we were asked to write this with three sig figs. So you can see here I have 1, 2, 3 sig figs. Everything else is left off. So we'll just round off and bump that 8 up to a 9. All right, so I said this kind of ahead of time. I did the problems, but I wanted to give you a couple of rules so that you can kind of roll with this down the line. First rule is that any non-zero digit in a number is a sig fig. So here, 539 has three significant figures. And going back to the last problem, 1440, 1, 4, and 4 are non-zero digits, and they are all significant figures. So that's why we get 3 over here. The second rule says that any zero before non-zeros are not significant figures. So as you may or may not be able to see here, 0.5, the 0 is not a significant figure. So it's before a non-zero. So to the left, in other words. Third rule is any 0 between two non-zeros are significant figures. So I put up here 2,000,009. And so you can see that the zeros are significant. And if we combine that rule with rule number 1, we can see that we have 7 significant figures. So 2,000,009 has 7 significant figures. Rule number 4 says that any zero after a non-zero in a number with a decimal are significant figures. And rule number 5, and we're going to see 2 examples in just a second. And rule number 5 says that any zeros after non-zeros in a number without a decimal is not a significant figure. Okay, so let's we're going to come back to 4 because we'll see a couple examples. So number 5 says any zeros after non-zeros in a number without a decimal. So the last 2 are going to be looking at numbers with a decimal and without a decimal. It's really important that you distinguish here. So this 500 does not have a decimal point to it, right? And we says any zeros after a non-zero in a number without a decimal is not a significant figure. So these zeros are not included and part of should not be counted as significant figures. So only the 5 is a significant digit. So this number has only one significant digit. So now couple that up with concept number 5. Now we have a decimal included. So now we change the 500 to a 500 with a decimal, and it makes some substantial difference here. So now the 5s the 5 and the zeros are included. So all of these are significant figures. Okay, so one more time. Number 5 says any zeros after non-zeros in a number without a decimal is not, but number 4 says any zero after non-zeros in a number with a decimal are significant figures. Okay, so last point. This is a very small number. Let's go through a couple concepts here. So we know that any non-zero digit, the 2, the 4, the 8, the 6, the 3, they're all going to be significant digits, so we can put a check mark next to them. The 0 is between two non-zeros. So if you look at number 3 here, any 0 between two non-zeros are significant figures. So we can include this 0 and these zeros over here, and we're going to include this 0 over here because any, number 4 says any 0 after non-zeros in a number with a decimal are significant figures, so we include that 0 there. But to the left here, these numbers to the left, based on number 2, says that any 0 before non-zeros are not significant figures. So I know that's a lot for some of you guys. Some of you guys have seen this before. You'll see it a lot, especially if you take chemistry. So make sure you go over those concepts as well. All right, take care.